hearing will start now. Originating application 318 of 2022, Defi Payments Pte Ltd.
All right, good afternoon. Let me administer the Zoom allocation first. So all parties are reminded that there is to be no unauthorized photography or recording in any form and no dissemination of any photographs or recording of these proceedings, and only those counsel or persons notified to the court should be present at each location, and parties should treat these proceedings as they would a physical hearing. All right, good afternoon, Ms. Sheila Ang and Ms. Naomi Lim from Raja and Tan for the applicants, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. Good afternoon. I'm pleased to court representing Defi Payments and its application for extension of the moratorium that Your Honor had granted on 1st of August.
Yes, all right, thank you. I have a number of other attendees as per the list of attendees. Let me just check the courtroom as well. Hold on. All right, courtroom is empty. All right, thank you. All right, I'll proceed with hearing out Raja and Tan first, and then later on I will canvass if anyone wants to be heard on the extension of time application. All right, let's proceed then, Ms. Ang.
Grateful, Your Honor. Your Honor, can I check that you have our written submissions that we have filed last week?
Yes, thank you.
Grateful, Your Honor. And can I take it as read? And I'll just take Your Honor through a summary of this.
Yes, just highlight the main points thereafter. Right, thank you.
Grateful, Your Honor. Yeah, this is an application for extension of the moratorium that was granted under Section 64 of IRDA. Your Honor had granted the moratorium until 7th of November, which is today. And in this application, 73839, we are seeking an extension of 4 months to 7th of March 2023. And Your Honor, before I take Your Honor through the projected timeline that's set out in my written submissions, I thought it might be posit to sort of explain what the company has done in the last couple of months during this moratorium to advance its plans for a restructuring. And on this, Your Honor, there are 3 main aspects. The first one is the formation of a committee of creditors. As Your Honor had suggested, Defi Payments consider forming a committee of creditors. We have done so. The process has been set out in the 7th affidavit of Mr. Darshan Bhatia. What we had done is to reach out to all of its creditors, get an indicative response, and there was overwhelming response of interest in being part of a committee of creditors. And therefore, after a selection process was undertaken, and what then the company did was to look at the different constituencies in terms of geographical location, as well as the value of creditor claims, and informed a committee of 17 members, comprising 3 members from the top 20 overall unsecured creditors, 6 from top 50% in terms of value from India, 1 from the bottom 50% in India, 4 top 50% rest of the world, and 3 bottom 50% of the rest of the world. The composition was the composition came about after taking into account the number of creditors in the different geographical locations, as well as the value. So a total of 17 members. The COC, as I'll call it, the Committee of Creditors, have been kept updated regularly by the company. And there has already been 1 Committee of Creditors meeting that was held on the 10th of October, as Your Honor would see in the 7th affidavit. This is not an affidavit, and because this had happened after the filing of the affidavits for this application, but a second COC meeting had also taken place very recently, last Friday. The other thing that, of course, is important as part of the restructuring process is the engagement with the potential investor, and that's Nexo Inc. The due diligence process has been completed, and this is also set out in the affidavits, and discussions continue to be ongoing in relation to commercial terms. But in parallel with that, the company has also been working very hard together with its financial advisors, Crow, not just thinking about what would be the restructuring plan and the scheme if the Nexo deal goes through, but also a fallback plan. And this has been set out also in the update to creditors through the COC meeting, as well as the minutes that were also shared with all creditors following the COC meeting. If I could take Your Honor through very briefly through that.
All right.
This is at the 7th affidavit of Mr. Darshan Bhatia. If Your Honor turns to the minutes, and I'll go to page 59, sorry, 59.
Yes. All
Yes,
right.
these are the minutes. And what was done at the COC meeting was that the financial advisors described the three potential recovery scenarios. In the worst case scenario of liquidation, 2 in a restructuring, and 3 in a potential acquisition by Nexo. I have to caveat though that at that point in time, it's just indicative terms. So
Mhm.
that was just very broadly based on what was being discussed, but there is no final agreement yet with Nexo.
Mhm.
Over to page, Your Honor, in terms of the restructuring, what is contemplated, and this is at paragraph 2, relief from the present liquidity constraints, providing an early liquidity event to creditors through a debt tender offer, providing opportunity for gains for creditors who remain in restructuring by placing the company's assets under management with a third party,
Mhm.
professional crypto asset fund manager.
Mhm.
So the essence of the restructuring plan is to try to reduce the amount of liabilities ultimately that will be part of the restructuring.
Mhm.
If creditors who want access to liquidity quickly are willing to bid at a discount for payment of their claims at a discounted price. So that's the debt tender offer that's being contemplated. And then for the debts that remain, they will then be converted into units of a fund to be managed by a third-party crypto professional fund. So that's the idea of a restructuring plan and a scheme in the event that there is no acquisition by Nexo.
All right. Although I am a bit concerned that there's reference to potentially obtaining recoveries in excess of 100%. Isn't that a bit optimistic?
Yes, I do appreciate that, Your Honor. While there might be that possibility depending on the returns, it might not also be the case. So perhaps it's also appropriate at this point in time to highlight to the creditors who are present at the hearing that while it may go one way in terms of being optimistic in terms of the returns, but it can also go the other way.
All right. Would you have any indication from your financial advisors or otherwise about the likely likelihood of the crypto environment improving over the next few months during your extension period?
I don't have that indication at the moment, Your Honor, but this is something that of course I can always take instructions on. And what I propose to do is that following this, we can put this into an update to all creditors.
All right. Could you tell me how do you normally disseminate the updates?
The updates will be issued via email to all of the creditors directly, as well as an announcement on the Vaults platform.
All right. And so far, you've not had any adverse feedback about these methods?
Not that I'm aware of, Your Honor.
All right. All right, carry on, please.
Briefly. Your Honor, perhaps I should also add that there is also an email address that was created for creditors to submit any inquiries, as well as specific queries or concerns that they can reach out to the COC as well. So there are also email communication channels that are available for them in terms of outreach.
All right, please carry on.
Grateful, Your Honor. And the last one, Your Honor, is the continued discussion. So item 2 was in relation to the restructuring plan. And item 3 is that the continued discussions with Nexo, that's continuing to be ongoing. And when there is a positive outcome or any outcome, the creditors will be informed accordingly. And this brings us to the timeline. So we had projected some timelines moving forward. And if Your Honor can turn to the submissions at page 17.
Yes.
So this was a timeline as at 10th of October, and we had proposed certain timelines up to the end of the moratorium, proposed moratorium extension of end Feb, early March. However, having regard to the development, because time has been taken with Nexo in terms of the discussions remain ongoing, the projected timeline has to be pushed back. But nonetheless, we expect that an application to court for leave to convene a scheme meeting should be made by early 2023, and that the scheme meeting could be convened in the first quarter of 2023 if it's so granted. This is over the page at paragraph 30 of my submissions. So at this point in time, we are already in November, and there's still discussions that are ongoing. we hoped to be able to finalize any investment agreement, any acquisition, as well as terms of the scheme by the end of the year, with an application to go into court by early next year, 2023.
When you say early 2023, that would be within January?
Hopefully January, yes, Your Honor.
All right, so that means essentially you're likely to have the sanction application will be earliest in what, February or March?
I would imagine there'll be sometime in February or March, Your Honor, because time will be taken for directions, for timelines as well, for affidavits. So that will bring us close to the time that we are asking for in terms of extension, which is 7th of March. Also
Right.
taking into account Chinese New Year holidays in January. So there are a couple of public holidays there.
All right, so it's likely that even on an optimistic time frame, you will probably need another extension,
Yes, Your Honor.
short extension. All right. All right.
Yeah, just one.
Carry on.
Sorry about it. Just one other point. In terms of support for the extension moratorium, at the COC meeting, the issue of an extension was raised to the COC, and the COC has come back with its support generally of the moratorium out of all the members. So if I can take your honor to the 7th affidavit.
All right. I understand there's some raised hands. I will take the any participation after we go through these submissions. All right. Carry on, please.
Yes, Your Honor. So in terms of the support from creditors, this is set out in the 7th affidavit. If Your Honor can go with me to page 10.
Page 10. All right.
Paragraph 24. So this was raised at the meeting itself. Of the 17 members of the COC, 16 were in favor of the extension application at paragraph 24.
Yes. All right.
And all of the the email responses are also set out at tab 9 of the 7th affidavit. I do wish to also highlight to Your Honor that in terms of one of the replies, it wasn't an express support, although it did say, the creditor did say, let's take the path which is best for all of the creditors. And this is at page 82.
All right.
I'm nothing to add at the moment, Your Honor, unless Your Honor has a question.
All right. Before I turn to the participants, could you just summarize the legal requirements and whether or not you fulfilled them?
Yes, Your Honor. And I will go to my submissions for this. If Your Honor can go with me to my submissions.
Yes.
And this is at page 9, the legal principles there. So pursuant to section 64(7) of ERDA, Your Honor has a jurisdiction to extend the period of an existing moratorium order if an application is made by the company before the expiry. In this case, yes, we have done so. Today is the expiry of the moratorium period. In determining whether an existing moratorium should be extended, Your Honor, should have regard to the legislative purpose of section 64 ERDA, which is to develop and thereafter refine and mature a proposed restructuring plan. And another factor to take into account is whether the applicant company had made a bona fide attempt at proposing a restructuring plan with its creditors. And on this, our submission is that yes, what we have done what the company has done is to take into account the wishes of the creditors in coming up with a restructuring plan. Effort and time has been needed. Time has been needed because of the ongoing discussions with NEC, so that's taken a little longer than expected. But nonetheless, this is still in progress. And also in terms of what the company has done It's in the event that any acquisition fails, there's also a backup restructuring plan that already has been put before the COC. So the COC acts as a consultative body, and with that, the company is continuing to refine its restructuring plan. And hopefully by the end of the month, have something in place and make that application by January 2023.
All right, thank you. I think I will have some concerns. I will hear any of the other parties out, but I think one of my concerns is to make sure that the discussions with Nexo are at least likely to lead to something rather than clearly going in the other direction. So how would you characterize it, Ms. Ang?
Yeah, the first one I can say is that, and it's not an affidavit, I do appreciate that, so this is evidence from that, but I was present at the latest Nexo discussion on Friday, so it's still ongoing. So I think that's all I can really say, at this moment. But what I think we can do, and I think the company is intending to also give an update very shortly after the COC meeting on Friday, where the COC also got an update on the ongoing discussions, is that we will issue, an update on the discussions with Nexo, as well as the progress of the restructuring in relation to the same update that has been given to the COC. And of course, we can file an affidavit to give Your Honor the same update.
All right. But I take it that at this point, it is not, well, it's not dead in the water, or not heading that way, and there is some pause for cautious optimism that something can be reached?
So yeah, not that I'm aware of. As in, so perhaps what I can say is that based on my own understanding and my own involvement, is that terms have been proposed by the company, and we are awaiting terms to be counter-proposed by Nexo.
All right, so there is a serious effort underway.
Yes, Your Honor. All right, thank you. Let me see. I think there were some hands up. Hold on a moment. All right, we've one. Mr. Damir Butmir, to be promoted to panelist, please. Oh, sorry, and let's take Mr. Butmir first. Thank you. Annie?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Butmir, are you able to switch on your video?
Yes.
All right. Yes, Mr. Butmir, what do you wish to say?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Your Honor, for taking me in. So my name is Damir. I'm a top 15 creditor. I'm from Croatia. And I think, Your Honor, there's a few concerns that Vault has not addressed that I would like to address. The first point is, have they made, in terms of financial progress over the past 3 months? Is there a bigger debt? Is there a smaller debt? Have they made on their loans any profit? Have any come in? I think that's important to know. They haven't mentioned that. Another point is they previously had an exclusivity deal with Nexo for 3 months. That was extended. I think the exclusivity should be canceled if possible by the court, because it's counterproductive to this process. I think all deals be accepted. So I don't think we should extend another 4 months with Nexo and potentially not get a deal. Also, Your Honor, there was a recent revelation. They had $142 million loan that they did not previously disclose, or that they have an NDA that they cannot disclose who is that with. If they cannot disclose it publicly, that's okay. I don't know if we can get them to legally disclose it internally only to the court. If that $142 million loan is either to Darshan, that could be a problem. If it's to Three Arrows Capital, which is already in default, that's a problem. So then the hole would be bigger than we know. The second to last point, I would say the communication from Vault in the beginning was very good in terms of emails. In the past 3 months, the communication from them was rather poor. We did not find out about the Nexo deal being extended from Vault. We found out from Nexo. And I think that's a problem.
All right.
So the communication, I think, needs to improve. In final, since I'm top 15 creditor, I still support the extension. I do not think it should be for 4 months. I think that is too long, and also under the condition that they can accept other offers, not just from Nexco with an exclusivity deal. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Whitmer. I think the other one is Mr. Arupataban Velasamy. Can we promote him, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Velasamy, sorry, are you there? Mr. Velasamy, are you able to switch on your video, please? Right. Oh, yes. All right, Mr. Velasamy, please proceed. Oh, sorry, you're muted. Yes.
Hello.
Yes. All right, Mr. Velasamy, carry on.
Actually, I'm from India, my lord. I'm a cricketer representing all. Actually, the things are completely different in India. Actually, there is a complete company registered name Flipkart Technologies in India. We are funded through Flipkart Technologies, which was the funds completely rooted into DeFi payments as in crypto.
Sorry, hold on, Mr. Velasamy. Sorry, your audio is a bit is breaking up a little bit. Hold on a moment, please. So what I understand is you're saying that in India, the funds were channeled through a different company. That's what you're saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, my lord.
All right, thank you. Carry on, please.
Yeah, actually, Indian government has freezed the Flipkart Technologies on August 12th due to money laundering activities.
All right.
Yeah, due to money laundering activities. Actually, we have all funded through Flipkart Technologies, which turned into crypto as DeFi payment. Okay, Indian government was pretty different in handling Vault. Okay.
Sorry, I'm afraid I didn't hear you there. Could you repeat that, please?
Sir, actually, Indian government has freezed the Vault account in India, which was the company named as Flipkart Technologies, which was registered in India. They have freezed the Vault's account due to money laundering issues on August 12th. Not only Vault.
All right, so you're saying they were involved in money laundering? Is that
yes,
what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah, one of the customers. Yeah, actually, yeah, Enforcement Directorate of India has freezed complete Vault account in India, which was around 45 million USD.
All right. All right.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, Mr. Velasamy, I'm sorry. I think the audio is still breaking a bit. Could I trouble you to write in the webinar chat what summary of what you're saying?
Yes, yes,
all right. Thank you, Mr. Velasamy. All right. So while we're doing that, while Mr. Velasamy is doing that, I'll bring in Mr. Mridul Jujunwala. Thank you. Mr. Jujunwala, yes, sorry. Carry on, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank
Your
you.
Honor?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to echo the same point mentioned by the other unsecured creditor that the communication from a Vault has been very poor to nothing. And it was promised by the councilwoman Sheila that there would be regular AMAs by Darshan, which none of them have happened. And we are at the mercy of the Telegram group and other folks to get the details. Like we came to know about the extension of the Nexo from Nexo group. So I urge the Your Honor to make it a very serious decision here to make sure Vault is communicative. Also on the front of COC, They have not done a due diligence properly. They have just selected 17 people out of the 20 eligible. There are so many other unsecured creditors possible. I urge your honor to fill those positions by other unsecured creditors who are interested in taking that role. And on that front, they have communicated the incorrect email address. People have tried to send them the questions, and they have been not able to reach to the committee. Also, those questions are being filtered by their financial advisor crawl and are not directly reachable to the committee. So the platform that has been set up is totally a fraud platform. It is not a workable platform for our unsecured creditors to communicate with them. And there is no transparency on that front. I would urge the honor to have some kind of platform available like Twitter Spaces or AMAs or YouTube live channels where unsecured creditors can meet with the committee members and discuss their concerns. Also, in addition to the mentioned by the other unsecured creditors, I believe there is a recent liquidity available from the same counterparty A of $65 million, which has been discussed to be used as part of the debt tender offering. So my urge to the honor is that in addition to the 65 million, there is another potentially 80 million, which is liquid with Vault. So the unsecured creditors have got no relief for the last 4 months from Vault. So I urge the honor to give some hardship withdrawal, some kind of withdrawal, maybe 5%, which is easily possible to be given to the unsecured creditors and provide them relief. And also the numbers published by Vault are very difficult to reconcile month over month. The numbers published initially as of June 28th are different. The numbers published as of August 1st are different. It is difficult as accountant for me to reconcile all the numbers and come to the current state. So I urged the court that Vault publish the exact numbers of the cryptocurrencies when it comes to assets and liabilities. Also clarify whether the money with the counterparty A is a loan or is it a secured asset, or it is very, very confusing that they also have a loan as well as they have a collateral as a security with counterparty A. So it is very difficult to reconcile. In addition to, there are loans given to unsecured creditors on the platform, and there is collateral against that. How much is that? We do not know. All those details are not transparent, and it is very, very hard for me as an accountant to figure out what is the whole gap. And the gap keeps on changing from 70 million to 75 million to 81 million to 95 million in different documents and at the Vault group again. So it's very, very difficult to reconcile all that. And I would suggest the creditors committee have an independent financial advisor to really give the correct picture to the creditors.
All right, thank you. And then, all right, we have Mr. Luke Thomas. I'm afraid I have to perhaps draw the line at Mr. Thomas. All right, so Mr. Thomas will be promoted. All right, we got one more, Mr. Dorfield. All right, I will have to draw the line at Mr. Dorfield. I think I can give Mr. Dorfield. I think Mr. Dorfield will have to be the last one after Mr. Thomas. All right, I'm afraid I cannot keep this going on. But all right, Mr. Thomas next.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak, Your Honor. So I'm one of the members of the CC and the COC, and I've been engaged with Crawl, Rose from Crawl, with Darshan. We had a call with them on Friday for nearly 2 hours. So we had a bunch of questions which are represented from the creditors, and we went through all the questions line by line with them for nearly 2 hours on a Friday. And we had around 10 members of our COC been there as well. I understand the frustration of many of the creditors who are not part of the COC. And if you go to the main Vault Telegram group, there are a lot of people there also misleading people and spreading FUD as well. So we'll come to a point where it's been 4 months. And I think right now, the extension of the moratorium, the reason why we are all voted, like, I think what I've been made to understand is there were 17 creditors, of which 16 COC members were in favor out of the 17 COC in extension of the moratorium, right? So that's what we had the first meeting on October 10th. So my only request is that that at least a term sheet is signed by Nexo with the extension of the moratorium be granted by you, Your Honor, so that because if you look at the three options given to us, be it a recovery scene, it's again, there's a lot of tax implications that goes with the recovery scenario. The Nexo deal is where someone gets all their cryptos in kind. There's no tax implications there. We just move our coins to the to the Nexo platform from Vault. And liquidation is something which we all want to avoid, because looking at the numbers and the financials at the moment, technically people, especially a lot of people with the macros going on, with a lot of people losing jobs, even if you go through a liquidation, with the best case scenario, what's been told to us is like 30 to 49%, and that funds will come only in year 3, which is not favorable for any creditor right now. So many people are of the view that if you do a liquidation, you get the money immediately, which is not the case, because I think people are getting confused with a debt tender offer or reverse Dutch auction. So my only request to Your Honor is that if at all an extension is granted, for a moratorium extension is granted, that Nexo at least signs a term sheet with Vault as soon as possible. And then, like, like some of the other members mentioned here, that there is at least a hardship withdrawal, like say $5,000 or $10,000 per month. So folks who want to withdraw the money can be in a position to do so, especially from emerging markets, where I think where the average account holder has not more than $100, right? So that was my only request, Your Honor. Otherwise, I think from the COC's perspective, I mean, I'm just talking from a COC member's perspective. They have already created a WhatsApp group, so we had good communications with Rose and with Darshan. And like I said, on Friday was a very productive call. I, for one, have represented myself on the main Vault Telegram group. In fact, over the past one day, I've gone and answered each and everyone's questions, line by line through a voice note on the main Vault Telegram group, just clarifying whatever information is put forward to me by Crawl and by Vault. I have actually clarified all those queries for the major unsecured creditors, but I can understand the pain and the frustration for a lot of people who have been waiting for the past 4 months. So I hope and pray that at least the term sheet is signed, and then we can cross over this bridge on a happy note, so that people get their cryptos in kind, rather than going through a liquidation or going through a crypto fund manager, where again they convert it into into a different portfolio, and there's a lot of tax implications. So if you were to look at the 3 scenarios, Your Honor, I would say the Nexo deal is what makes everybody happy, and hopefully with hardship withdrawals also taken into consideration. With the Nexo deal, that would be a perfect marriage made in heaven. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, and then we have Mr. Velisami's comment in the webinar chat. Then I will have the last speaker. Sorry, who is that again? Mr. Dorfil. All right, Mr. Dorfil, can you switch on your video, please?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, it's your... Yes, carry on, please, Mr. Dorfil.
All right. Thank you, sir. My situation, I'm a U.S. citizen. I put in about 250,000 in crypto assets. I withdrew 200,000 on June 13th. And then after a series of multiple written assurances, both from Darshan and a number of Vault management and employees, I was led to believe that Vault was financially stable, which led me to redeposit $200,000 on June 24th. Only 10 days after that, I was surprised to receive the notice that my funds were now frozen. There was much talk about from the lawyers regarding the transparency and communications efforts on the part of Vault. And you've heard some perspectives from other creditors. I'd like to provide some facts that I've encountered in communications with Vault. Number one, the documents that were submitted on November 3rd for this court hearing were only provided to us creditors just over 4 hours ago, even though last week I emailed multiple times to Vault requesting access to those documents. That is not sufficient notice for us to have time to review and understand and respond. So we need more timely correspondence on important matters such as this. Vault took over 2 months to form the COC, and then the first meeting basically forced a vote on the COC to approve their proposition. On October 10th, we creditors were notified of the formation of the COC. I immediately sent 2 emails to the email address that was provided to us. I received no response, didn't know what was going on. Then I had to start digging to find out, how do I get information? I found the Telegram group and started corresponding and hearing what other people had to say. And then a couple people identified themselves as COC members. I had to dig to find this information. And then back channel, they started feeding information to us, nothing direct. On that note, I sincerely request that VALD, through the court's pressure or demand, reveal the names of all the identities of all the COC members, not out of suspicion that they're doing anything wrong, but just they are our representatives. They need to know, we need to know who they are so they can properly represent us. There are some good people on the creditors committee with whom I have corresponded with, but we need to know who these people are. Regarding the emails sent to the creditors committee, unfortunately, they are filtered by Kroll, the accounting agency, and then I am told by a creditor committee member that they are then surmised in a single PDF, which is sent to the creditors committee once a week without any attachments. So I had to dig deep with a creditor committee member to figure out whether or not they actually received my email. And important PDF attachments I included with my email were not sent to the creditors committee. I had to send them back channel personally to them until eventually they were. So that the whole process of communicating with the creditors committee is hampered and needs to be fixed so that our voices can be heard. So the only way for us to have a voice is through the COC, and that needs to be a smoother operation. Mr. Thomas, Luke Thomas just mentioned that there was a meeting this Friday with Vald and Kroll to go over a number of issues and questions that many of us creditors have been posing for several months without any answers. What we need is an official response from Vald on answers to those questions. One of the key questions that many of us have been asking, and it's a completely legitimate question, is whether or not any Vald managers, including Darshan or any employees, had withdrawn funds and assets from the Vald platform immediately preceding the freeze. I request and would like the court to demand that Vald answer that kindly in the form of an affidavit file, so it's legally binding, not just something communicated via email.
Sorry, can I stop you there? What specifically would you like them to address in this affidavit, Mr. Bill?
I would like, thank you, sir. Thank you, Your Honor. I would like for them to explicitly mention which Vald directors or employees have or have not withdrawn assets from the Vald platform from mid-June until present day. And if we want an exact date, we could say June 13th, the day after the collapse of Celsius, which prompted all this action. And Your Honor, the reason why this is important, and if I may proceed, the date of what I will refer to as the big lie is June 16th. The timeline is incredibly important, Your Honor. On June 16th, Darshan, the CEO of Vald, sent out an email to all customers, including myself, where he made 4 statements, all of which are false. The first statement he made is, I quote, "We have always maintained a balanced and conservative approach," end quote. The fact is, Vald engaged in risky speculative trading with user funds buying long Bitcoin, long Luna, Terra, and other assets using our funds. This is not a balanced and conservative approach. It's directional speculative trading. The second false statement that was made was, quote, "Bull and bear market runs are inevitable in the crypto market, and we," meaning Vald, "deploy fundamentally strong strategies that account for these cycles," end quote. The fact, Your Honor, is that there was no fundamentally strong strategy engaged by Vauld in their speculative trading. They did not account for a bear market condition. So leading us to believe that they did was a false statement and gave false sense of security. The third statement that was made in that email is, we do not have any exposure to Celsius or Three Arrows Capital, and we remain liquid despite market conditions. Your Honor, I must again mention the last phrase, and we remain liquid despite market conditions. This is on June 16th, 2022, after I've already taken money out, and now the CEO is telling me and all the creditors, we are liquid. The name of the email, by the way, Your Honor, is Vauld continues to operate as usual, end quote. That is what was communicated. The financials that we now have been exposed to, and Your Honor, have been presented to your court as well, state a completely, entirely different picture, where Vauld, due to their speculative trading, had already amassed millions of dollars of mark-to-market losses, and they had unsecured loans out there where they had no idea whether or not they get payback on. This does not represent a liquid company. At that time, the CEO and management knew, or should have known at the very least, that their liabilities exceeded their assets. Therefore, they should not have been communicating to all the customers that they were liquid and that everything was working as usual. And it's not just communication from Darshan, Your Honor. In my demand letter that I sent to Vauld on July 9th, which was mentioned in the second affidavit Darshan filed with your court. And Your Honor, I don't know if that information was actually provided to your court. If not, I would be happy and delighted to provide that. I provide in great detail in my exhibits all the other Vauld employees that communicated the same message to me personally, that Vauld was in exceptionally strong financial health. This is in mid-June, after the collapse of Luna, after the collapse of Celsius, after the big downturn in the market. After all that has happened, Vauld is still telling us that they are financially stable and liquid. And now we're learning that, no, they were not liquid. So that's what I call, Your Honor, the big lie. We were lied to. It's very clear in the timeline. And so, Your Honor, it then begs the question, are we to trust Vauld management now with their current plans? Of course, none of us want liquidation. We want the Nexo deal to go through. I encourage a reasonable moratorium. I think 4 months is too long, Your Honor. They've already had 4 months in talking with Nexo, and what has happened? It's still talk. And Your Honor, I would venture to say one of my questions is, when did they begin speaking with Nexo? Your Honor, they had to have had discussions with Nexo, and there is rumor, although I don't subscribe to rumors and speculation, but it has been said that there was discussions even prior to this announcement, and there had been, when they announced on July 5th, Your Honor, that Nexo intended to acquire them, obviously they had to have been in discussions with Nexo for weeks prior to that. As we're seeing right now, it takes months and several weeks to have these kinds of discussions. So clearly, why were they having discussions with Nexo? They were in financial trouble. And so the problem, Your Honor, to state it boldly, is as a creditor, and it's not just me, many others, we have a big trust problem with Vauld management. That's why the concerns of having an independent financial audit or maybe independent manager would be something prudent to bring a fair and equitable conclusion to this debacle. So my clear request, Your Honor, and thank you for this time, sir, is number one, if the court would be so inclined to order Vauld to provide a report showing the amount of assets withdrawn from Vauld by Vauld directors and employees from mid-June to present. That would, if it shows that they didn't withdraw anything, great. They're now on record with a legally binding affidavit, And all of us creditors then are at ease to know that there is no monkey business there. The second request I would like, if I may be so bold as to ask, would be a statement from Vault on their asset and liability situation on the morning of June 16th, when the Vault CEO issued his statement that they were liquid. We would like to see that proven by financial numbers. And lastly, if it would be so bold to ask, since the majority of money held at Vault is by U.S. citizens. I know the majority of users actually are from India, but given that the majority of money is U.S. citizens, if there's any way that future court hearings such as this could be held during a time that's easier for U.S. citizens to participate, that'd be most graciously appreciated. It's the middle of the night here right now, but thank you, Your Honor, for hearing me out, and thanks for your help.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dorfeld. All right, I will give Mr. Dhruv Gupta the last intervention. Mr. Gupta. Mr. Gupta, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, can we promote him, please? Thanks. Any were not able to promote Mr. Gupta? All right, thank you. Connecting. Yes, Mr. Gupta. Sorry, Mr. Gupta, are you able to turn your video and audio? I'm afraid I'm not able to wait for Mr. Gupta. Mr. Gupta, I don't know whether you can try typing in the chat in the meantime. Let me then turn back to Raja and Tan. All right, Ms. Ng, I have heard a few things which are of some concern. Taking first the question of communications, I don't think things are quite as smooth as the affidavit makes out to be.
Yes, Your Honor, I appreciate that, there might have been some concerns from creditors in terms of communications. I do wish to highlight that because a lot of the creditors would be submitting similar questions. What the financial advisors and the company has done is to actually consolidate to an FAQ or Q&A in terms of the general questions that are being then published on the website. And an email is also being issued to give creditors a link to access them. So the reason for that is because it's going to be a lot of resources and time to respond to each and every one of them personally. And that's the reason why general Q&A and FAQs have been prepared and released.
All right, I don't doubt there'll be a bit of work involved, and I appreciate that the FAQs helps to consolidate matters, but I can't imagine there'll be too much trouble just conveying the emails and attachments to the COC, because I think the point of the COC is to act as a voice for all the different creditors, and they should be able to communicate with the COC directly, or at least be assured that whatever emails they send to a common email account are actually conveyed directly to the COC. That shouldn't, I think, be too much trouble these days.
That shouldn't be, yes, Your Honor. This is the first time hearing of it. So I think, I don't think there will be too much trouble. in having the consolidated, sorry, not consolidated.
No, not even
but
consolidated,
all-
just
yeah.
send it.
Yes,
in raw
all
form.
just basically forward on every single email that's received, that's addressed to COC. I don't think that's going to be an issue.
All right, so I'll specify firstly that emails are to be sent to the COC should be conveyed in raw form. Of course, if you want to check through for viruses and that sort of thing, that's fine. But just send it on to the COC in raw form. Any problems about identifying the COC members?
Your Honor, and that's the request that Your Honor had also made in terms of an explanation of why the company had taken the position, not to disclose. And the reason for that is because certain members, so not all of the COC are comfortable with disclosing their names. And that's the reason why the company had taken the position to respect their confidentiality and privacy. But we have submitted the names unredacted to Your Honor.
All right. But I think it's more for the rest of the creditors. I can understand some of them who are there because of their holdings may not be comfortable about disclosing their identities. But in terms of those who are ready and willing to do so, perhaps their identity should be made known so that people know how to reach them. And if they can't reach them through the normal channels, that they can at least do so through direct email. All right. So for COC,
Yes, Your Honor, I appreciate that as well.
all right. So for the COC identity of those who are willing to be identified, to be made known, and ways of communicating, whether it's through direct emails or other accounts they set up, I leave it to them. All right.
Grateful, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. All right. And there have been a number of concerns raised by Mr. Velusamy about the position in India. And I think Mr. Dorfeld as well, about what had happened in June and the kind of asset position the company is actually in. I think some of these at least will go to indicating the bona fides and will also impact my determination ultimately of the amount of information that is available to the creditors so they can make an informed decision. So I think we need to have an affidavit from the company or from the applicant to respond to these allegations and issues, including the financial position of the company as of the 16th, and withdrawals if there's such information. And if the company, the applicant is of the view that these are either not warranted or not caught within the ambit of the statute, the applicant should just state so, and I will make my determination accordingly. All right.
I'll bet, Your Honor.
All right, I think Mr. Velusamy has raised a number of points. In relation to the position in India, I'll leave you to address it in the affidavit. All right. And I think communications really has to be improved. And all right. Unfortunately, I appreciate that some of the creditors may not be that comfortable in English. Unfortunately, these are how we have to conduct our proceedings in Singapore. And I'm afraid I can't extend assistance beyond that. We're not able to run the interpretation across to so many people in this way. All right, so I will see what we can do in future, but for the time being, I'm afraid we have to continue conducting proceedings in English. Now, there are a few other things I should note. While I'm asking them to provide more information and to improve the communications process, there are a few things I need to underline. Firstly, as I mentioned previously, the moratorium proceedings is really just to keep things as they are. It's to prevent basically any cases from being started so that the applicant is giving some breathing space to come up with a restructuring plan. I am not able to intervene in any other way at this time I can strongly suggest to them that they do certain other things so that they can gain the support of the creditors when the meeting is held. But unfortunately, I am not able, under our laws, to order interim payments or release of funds. I am able to do that in some situations by suggesting it strongly to the applicant, and some companies are able to do it, but some other companies will say that they really cannot choose between the creditors. So beyond strongly suggesting, I am not able to do much more. But in terms of communication and information, I have greater scope for requiring some form of compliance, and that I will try to do in the course of my directions today. And similarly, also in response to Mr. Belasami, in terms of what is happening in India and actions of the Indian government, I'm afraid I do not have the power to engage with the Indian government in that way. The other point I would make about the Section 64 IRDA moratorium process is that it is a situation where the applicant remains in control. We have other kinds of restructuring proceedings where someone else is inserted, but this is not that kind of proceedings. The company is largely in the driving seat. My role is to consider whether the moratorium should be extended, and ultimately when an application is made for a scheme meeting, to see whether a scheme meeting should be called. That is the scope of what I can do. All right, so I appreciate that this may not be satisfactory to some of you, and it may differ from what you may have in the United States or in other jurisdictions, but that is the framework I have to operate in. All right, but if you have concerns, please just continue to raise them. I will try to address them when I can. Sometimes I'm not able to, but I will bear in mind the concerns raised, and wherever possible, I will try to make sure the information is disseminated or improvements are made to the communication process from the company. In certain situations, it may be that whatever you indicate as misconduct may show that the company is not acting in good faith, and then any moratorium may not be extended. But that is really the outcome, the other alternative outcome that I can grant. So right now, largely what I can do is to allow the extension of the moratorium or deny the extension of the moratorium. So it's a binary choice. All right. All right. With that in mind, Ms. Ng, turning back to you, do you have any other responses to the various concerns raised by the creditors?
Your Honor, perhaps just to aid some of the creditors in terms of their questions, we do already have responses to some of them in the affidavits, and maybe I can just refer very quickly to those. So in relation to the withdrawal requests, in terms of creditors wanting to withdraw at least a small sum, that was also raised at the previous hearing. And I just wanted to reassure creditors that the company has considered this, but unfortunately it's not in a position to do so because of its net liability position and the possibility of contravening certain laws in Singapore. And the explanation has already been set out in the affidavit of Mr. Bhatia, the 5th affidavit at paragraphs 9 onwards. So I just wanted to let creditors know that we hear their concerns. It's just that unfortunately that there are certain things that the company cannot do. There was also the other issue about counterparty A, and whether there is, whether Mr. Darshan himself is counterparty A. And I think I can confirm here that Mr. Darshan is not counterparty A. The reason why the company is not able to disclose is because there is a non-disclosure agreement entered into with counterparty A. And I think in one of the other FAQs previously issued, a question was asked, is counterparty A Nexo? And that has also been confirmed that it is not Nexo Inc. So I just wanted to let creditors know that a lot of the questions that have been raised are in the FAQs. So I do seek the creditors' patience, and understanding in going to the Q&A to try to see whether the answers are there. And if they are not, please feel free to submit their questions via email so that the financial advisors and the company can respond accordingly.
All right. Anything else, Ms. Ng?
Not at this moment, Your Honor. I think in
Alright.
terms of the other questions, we will file an affidavit in
Alright.
response.
I have some concerns about extending it as requested. I think in the circumstances, 4 months is too long. If the proceedings are being pursued in good faith, I appreciate that your possible investors may want some assurance, but I think I also need to keep a tight rein. I'm afraid I can't take any other responses at this time. I'm afraid I have to draw a line. I appreciate Mr. Murdo, you want to speak again. I'm afraid I'm not able to accommodate it at this time. All right, sorry. All right, Mr. Murdo, I'll let you have one brief response, please. Just briefly, Mr. Murdo.
Yes.
All right, briefly, Mr. Murdo. Sorry, Mr. Murdo, yes. You have to unmute, sorry. Yes.
Yeah. So I just had a point regarding the withdrawal.
Yes.
I do not believe the statement made is correct because Vault does have liquidity of $140 million, and which is substantial, which is almost 40–50% of the assets. And I feel Vault can give the creditors some relief. I'm not even saying hardship withdrawals where you have to make a decision. I'm saying across the board, they could give a 5% withdrawal with capped limits on weekly, monthly basis to provide people have invested their lifetime savings, Your Honor, and need the money to make a living, the daily expenses. They are having very, very hardship time, and people are talking about committing suicide and dying, which is not appropriate. It should be avoided.
All right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Murdo. I've heard you. I'm afraid, as I've indicated, I do not have the power to do so under our laws. I will urge, and I think Mr. Velasamy made the same point previously, but I will urge the company to see whether it can actually carry out some accommodation, and perhaps if you could address it also fully in the supplementary affidavit, Ms. Ang.
Yes, Your Honor, I will do so.
To revisit this in the supplementary affidavit. All right. All right. So as I indicated, I am not able to extend it for 4 months in the circumstances. I do want to see some responses to the concerns raised about the information and the transactions that were being done, because I think this goes to bona fide. So I want the affidavit to address the communication problems, what has been done to improve these. I want the affidavit, supplementary affidavit, to address the financial issues in relation to the holdings and withdrawals as of June 16th, I think was the date. And also just to address again the question of withdrawals, also some form of small amount withdrawals to assist the creditors, and also, if possible, to address the questions raised into the position in India. All right. So I will only extend it, the moratorium, until January, and I will require a further hearing in January. When do you think you'll be able to file this affidavit ahead of that, Ms. Ang?
Yeah, can I just clarify, in terms of the extension of the moratorium, is it up to the end of January?
Probably up to the middle of January. I can be persuaded to extend it if the requirements are met and my concerns are sufficiently addressed in the affidavits.
Grateful, Your Honor. And for the affidavit, I think if Your Honor can give, today is the 7th.
Sorry?
Sorry, I'm just checking the time. 7. Your Honor, would you be able to give us to the end of the following week, so by the 25th of November?
All right, to 25th November. Can I specify that this affidavit should be readily circulated to any creditor who requests.
Yeah, no, I
Alright.
think what we'll do is we'll just blast it to all creditors.
All right, then you send it
So
out to all
as with the
creditors.
previous occasions, we've been giving it to everyone.
All right, send it out to all creditors then, all right, in the blast. All right, thank you. All right, so the moratorium will be extended to January. Let me work out the date and I will hear you just a few days before that. I'll extend it for the moment to 20th January 2023. I can, for the assurance of your investors, can be persuaded to extend it further if compliance is shown and the concerns are sufficiently addressed in the affidavits. All right. And I'll fix it for hearing a few days before that on the Tuesday, the 17th of January, 2023, tentatively at 10 a.m. I'm afraid that's the best I can do for those in a different time zone. All right. So you've got that, Miss.
Yes, Your Honor, can I just
Victoria?
clarify?
Yes.
Yes, in terms of the extension of moratorium, am I required to file a further summons for further extension, or can I take it as the same summons will stand?
Same summons to stand to extension, unless
Right.
circumstances change.
But in the interim, an order is granted, so I can still extract an order for the extension.
Yes. Actually, you raise a good point. It might be better then for you to file a separate application. Separate application for extension beyond 20th January 2023. All right. All right. So your affidavit to be filed by the end of business, 25th November, should be disseminated to all creditors. The moratorium will be extended to 20th January 2023. A separate application for extension beyond that date. I'm hearing is on the 17th of January 2023 at 10 a.m. tentatively. Registry may need to change the date depending on my hearing diary. All right.
Good, Your Honor. Can I
Alright.
just ask a bit of indulgence in terms of timing? Because I do appreciate that if I have to work backwards and to file the further summons as well as affidavit and to give creditors time to respond if any, it will be the week of Christmas. And I'm just afraid it might take a little longer to just finalize and sign the affidavit. Could I ask perhaps if Your Honor can extend the moratorium to the end of January? With the hearings?
Why do you need to do it that way? I have some concerns, Ms. Ang. I think I will need to hear you before 20th January.
Okay, understand.
To hear that.
Good.
All right. All right. Thank you. All right. Again, I repeat, I do want the information to be improved. I want the financials to be disseminated and wherever possible, the concerns raised by the creditors addressed. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, I'm not able to address all the matters raised, particularly what's happening in India and in terms of the withdrawals by small creditors, but I'm asking the applicant to revisit these and address it in the supplementary affidavit to be filed by the 25th of November. All right, that is what I'm able to do this afternoon. Thank you. Anything further, Ms. Ang?
Nothing from Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, all right, thank you. The proceedings may be put up on YouTube again for the benefit of the creditors who are not able to attend. I'm not sure whether that's entirely necessary, but just to inform parties who we may be able to put it up. All right, thank you. Good day. Court is adjourned.
Your Honor.
Close adjourned.
Thank you.